Hello, thank you for tuning in. Welcome to the show. That's Matt behind the camera. We've got Agent Scully here dressed up. Why, you ask? Well, this week it's Halloween, or what Matt and I refer to as the most wonderful time of the year. Sorry, Christmas. Now, for those of you who celebrate Halloween, you know the whole nine, right? There's costumes, there are candies, scary stories, etc. And we decided that we would focus on something extra scary, or at least anciently so. And that, my friends, is the #1 villain in so many stories around the world, the devil.
Satan, Lucifer.
So before we get into this idea of the great adversary of God, let's make a few things clear. The first and foremost of which is, when we're talking about Satan right now, we're talking about it from an academic or folkloric perspective. We're not making any judgment calls about someone's religion or the place that a satanic figure would have in that religion. So without further ado, here are some things that you might not know about Satan. Number one, Satan, or at least the modern interpretation of Satan, is kind of a New Testament thing. Right, I know. You might be saying, Matt, Ben, Scully, wait, what about the book of Job? That's Old Testament. Satan's in there. But therein lies a little bit of shenanigans translation-wise, because, as it turns out, that Satan is referred to as something called Ha-Satan. And Ha-Satan, H-A-Satan, is a word that means something like the challenger. And in this sense, Satan, or Ha-Satan, whomever that might have been, is sent by God as an angel who gives people challenges and obstacles to make it even more important when they choose the good side or the correct action. In this case, in this sense, then what we later call Satan becomes sort of a special agent of God, who's sent there under God's command rather than in conflict with a great creator. And number two, all right, the devil has a lot of names, and that's kind of weird. It's due to religious syncretism in part. And religious syncretism is something that we've talked about before in our videos and a little bit on our audio show. That's when two different religions combine and meld to form another belief system. You can find traces of this in some voodoo practices, in some Caribbean practices, or when I used to live in Guatemala, some of the folk saints that were actually older pre-Christian deities. So this comes out in the various names for Satan or the devil. One great example would be Baal or Beelzebub, which you would recognize as Beelzebub or Lord of the Flies. That comes from an older religion. And some scholars trace this phenomenon all the way back to ancient Babylon, to Zoroastrianism. And in Zoroastrianism, so the theory goes, Second Temple era Judaism ran into an evil deity that is acknowledged in the religion of Zoroastrianism. The name of this deity, or this evil spirit, is Angra Mainya. And the interpretations of this have also changed throughout the years, but the theory is that this encounter, this cultural encounter, is what changed the interpretation of an angel sent by God to challenge people into something much more adversarial. 3. What does the devil look like? Now, this might surprise some people, right? Because we have a fairly solid, consistent image of Satan in Christianity and in some degrees in Islam, at least fairly consistent characteristics. But if you're watching this, then you probably already know that the whole hooves and horns thing was not actually in the Bible or in the books of any Abrahamic religions. We also know that the pitchfork the devil is holding is actually a trident, probably borrowed from Greek and Roman gods. And throughout history, the devil has numerous appearances in all kinds of texts. So much so that it's almost as if medieval scholars drawing a picture of the devil just kind of winged it and went with whatever they thought was scary or evil at the time. So let's go back to the hooves and the horns, that bit, right? Well, you would probably think that if the trident came from Greek and Roman gods, then surely that satyr-like appearance did as well. Surely this is a representation of the god Pan. But when did this happen? More recently than you might think. According to an author named Ronald Hutton, this whole pan influence on the figure of the devil didn't come around until the 19th century when people were aware of neo-paganism. 4. The whole idea that you could sell your soul to the devil in exchange for amazing riches and superpowers. Well, it turns out that kind of traces back to a more recent time too. That goes back to the German legend of Faust, where Faust sells his soul to Mephistopheles in exchange for wealth and women and all this other great stuff. In the canonical stories, the devil serves as a tempter, right, and wants souls, but doesn't necessarily give people amazing frigging powers in exchange for their soul. 5, and this one is a little bit more of a question. Okay, so we know now that a lot of the modern interpretations or perspectives on this figure of Satan actually come from non-biblical sources. They come from things like Dante's Inferno, a work of fiction. They come from legends like Faust. They come from fanciful drawings and ancient manuscripts. That's all, if you think about it, the media of its day. So here's the question. Will recent or more modern interpretations of Satan become things that future generations consider part of the canonical devil? And if so, which interpretations do you think will figure into this larger mythos? For example, Al Pacino in The Devil's Advocate, that's one. Do you have one, Matt?
Dave Grohl in The Pick of Destiny.
Dave Grohl in The Pick of Destiny. Yeah, perhaps Tim Curry in Legend. Who knows? We'd like to hear from you. What are the most powerful representations in pop culture, at least, or modern folklore and fiction of the devil? And there's one other thing, because this, keep in mind, is just an update on the way to our newest episode later this week. Are devil worshippers real? And before you jump right to the comments, keep in mind, we're not talking about like Anton LaVey or people who worship a symbolic idea. Are there people who believe that there is an adversary somewhere in the universe working against God, and are they worshiping it? Spooky, spooky stuff. Thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned. Take care this Halloween. And if you have an idea for an upcoming topic, please do let us know in the comments. Subscribe and send us an email directly. We are conspiracy@howstuffworks.com. Hey, is Scully closer to me than she was when we started?
Yeah, that's weird. Let me go back and check the tape.
Matt? Oh, God.